Welcome to this Layoutit talk. We just released Layoutit Grid V2, and the idea here is to look at it together, see all the new features, and learn CSS Grid about the spec in the way. So this application is a generator that duals as a learning tool. The idea is that you can drag and create areas. For example, like I can create a header here, and for example, a footer, and you can grab the lines and like do it as you wish, like the grid. We can create, for example, a sidebar that will have some configuration for the application. And let's imagine that this is a photos application. So we can have here two main panes for the content. Let's say that this will be like where the photos will go, and this will be where the people that appears in the photos are. So you can see that as we are drawing the areas, we get the HTML code in real time, and you also get the CSS that you need to apply to this HTML to get this grid layout. So you see like that we have like the main container where we are saying that this will be a grid, a display grid, and you have grid template columns and grid template rows. These are the ones that are defining how the size of each track, like each column and each row is called a track. So for example, in the rows, we see that we have 1 FR, 1.6 FR, and 0.4. This is because we move it this line for the footer. You can see that it's changing there in real time. And this unit is something that is used for defining the sizes in the tracks. Like you can use pixels if you want, percentage, but FR is a fraction of the remaining FBase, and it's quite comfortable to work with. And for example, like in the columns, if we would like the config to be smaller, we can say that instead of 1 FR, we are going to say like 0.5. And you can see that also here is in real time is updating. We have like here for the for defining the grid areas. In this configuration, like we started with a setting that not normally like the default is to use grid template areas, but this is good to start. Like we are directly defining like where each of the areas start and end. Like this is the row start. For example, for the header, we are saying that it starts in the first row here, then the first column, then it ends in the second row, that is this line, and then it will go until the line 4 for the columns. So this is how you can define. But one of the nice things about the spec is that you can use grid template areas, and with that, the idea is like kind of you do ASCII art, and you have a grid. Let's remove, for example, like the header, and you will see like there is like 3 dots here, and these 3 dots are empty cells. So if in that 3 dots, I will place the header again, and you will see that if in each of that empty cells I put like header, 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 I'm defining that this area, the header area, is going to go in this position. Then I have like the config here, photos, people, and the footer. And like this is like something new in V2, that we have like all these interactions, so you can quickly see how the grid template areas interact with the grid that you have defined. You can also like reorder, because we removed the header. For example, now is in here, but you can grab it and you can place it where you want. So this is something that when the grids are placed explicitly, like is not a difference for the layout, but in implicit, like if the area is auto-placed, it will make a difference. We can see how that works. Something else, like for example, like you can remove. Let's say that we don't want like this layout only will have like the people here. So you can see that the empty cell appear. And we can say, like, okay, like the last column, we don't need it. And this will be like a simpler design. You can also add new rows if you need them. You can specify a gap. For example, like let's say like that we want like 20 pixels for, or well, 25 and 25 here. And this is a really nice property of the gap property for grid. And Flex is also getting it now, that it defines like the gap between items, and it doesn't count the borders, the edges. So it's really comfortable to work with. And like you can see also that you can like move the lines. And if you press Shift, this is something that is also new, that you're going to be like more fine grained when you move. So you can like define more precisely where you're going to have the area. And this is for like basic explicit designs. We had most of it, but like the interactions are a lot nicer right now. And when you finish, you can like create a code pen with it, or now we have this create code sandbox available that it's going to give you like the design like with that you created, like header, config, photos, footer, and the HTML and CSS directly so you can continue to hack in this code sandbox and share it with other people. Once you select it, create a code sandbox, if that is the usual export that you will use, it's going to remain selected. And if not, like you can get back to exporting to CodePen. You can also generate a link that you can directly share with others. Yeah, so these were the features that we have before. And let's see like some new stuff. Like, so we reset the application, and one of the things that we support right now are autoplace areas. Normally, like as we saw before, we were like drawing and saying like this area is going to be explicitly defined here. So here you can see like the area, like we put it in these two cells, or like you can see like if we don't use this setting, that is here in this grid area. So let's get back. Another way to see it is like if we select this area, we can see that we have control of the grid area here. So instead of like 1, 2, 3, 3, like we can say like this is going to go like till 4, for example. So these again are row start. This is column start, so it starts in the line 2. This is row end. It ends in the line 3 of the rows, and it finishes at 4. So here, let's get back and put 3 here. So this is how explicitly stating where the area will be works. But imagine that like we remove this one, and instead of adding an explicit area, we will press this new button here that adds as a like autoplace area. So when we press it, you will see that the area will cover like the first empty cell. This is because like if you look, this is using grid area auto. With this, the div doesn't even have a name yet, because it's not needed for placement. You see that the grid template areas also that doesn't show that the grid is there. We can continue to add more areas, and these areas will interact with other explicit areas that you define. For example, like if I place an area here, you will see that this one is going to jump because this cell is now occupied by this area. So something that this is all controlled by the implicit grid. And the idea here is that let's look first at grid autoflow. The default is row. So with this autoflow, you can see like that it's first going to cover the row, and then when it finishes, it's going to continue extending to the next row. So the first areas that we added are like this one, this one, and if we add one more, it will jump here. And if instead of grid autoflow row, we select column, what is going to happen is that it's going to first start in the first cell and then like cover the full column and then jump to the next row. There is one more setting that is the dense, like the packing dense. And the idea is of this, like to check it out, we have to, let's get back to this one. So let's imagine that we make this area bigger. So instead of just auto, we're going to say like auto span 2. What this does is that we are saying like it's auto place it still, but it occupied 2 spaces in the columns. We can, for example, like get here and say like this in the other side, like this is going to be span 2 auto. So in this regard, this one is going to go like next. And let's see, we go back to the container, go here. So this is a good example here. So if we selected like grid autoflow row, the first, the one is going to be here. The second one, it has a space in the grid. So it's auto span 2, so it has two cells to cover this. The next one, it has the space again to cover it, and the next one again like has the space. But if we select column, you're going to see that the first one has the space. The second has a space here, the I2, but the next one that should be here, because we are first covering the full column and then to move in this autoflow column, it doesn't have the space because we define it as span 2 auto. So it doesn't have the space here, and the algorithm is going to start looking for where it can place it. So here it doesn't have the space because this one is already here. Here it doesn't have the space, and then at the end, like it finds that here it has the space. And then for the next one, this is something that is the standard way to place it. We are not going back and cover like all the spaces. We are saying like we already are here. There is kind of like a virtual pointer that you are like going through all the grid, and so this is the next free space. But this is what the dense, like this is called sparse, the algorithm. And if we press the dense button, what is going to happen is that it's going to reset the pointer every time that it has to place a new area. So instead of placing this one here where the pointer was, because we were like going like here, then the last column, so the pointer was here at that point, is going to say like, okay, I reset it to the beginning and I start again looking for a free space. So this is going to go here. So if we continue to add, the next one is going to find this space here. So we can, for example, like place it here, and then like you can, with dense packing, you can really like get like more compact designs. The problem is that it could be unexpected that you have, depending on the way, like it doesn't follow the normal placement of the dips, no? Because you start like this I6, for example, like let's say like the I4 should go after the I3, and here is kind of that it appears before. But it's not that much of a problem when you do a grid layout, and normally dense is not a bad option to use. So let's remove some of these areas. And let's see what happened. Like, let's go back to this one. So if we keep adding new auto-placed areas, what is going to happen is that at one point we are not going to have more space in the grid. So this was a 3 by 3. We have 9 spaces, and the next one that we are going to add is going to have to like place it somewhere. And this is where the implicit grid appears. So this 3 by 3 grid is the explicit grid that we are defining with the grid template columns and grid templates rows. Let's remove that too. And like if let's add one more. So we add one more, and it's going to create a new row to fit this new area. So we can continue to add there, and this is going to keep adding new ones. Let's remove one of these ones. Okay. So let's see. So here we are, like in this grid auto rows is 1 FR. Like if instead of 1 FR, like we will say like 0.5 here. This you are going to see that the outer rows are occupying half the space of the explicit rows. So in this regard, you can see how like these next two are like the implicit rows that were generated. If we go to the other flow, the column is going to go the other way. Like first is start like filling these ones, and then like it will create two columns to accommodate the next one. And once, like if you remove, for example, like if we are in this one, and like let's see what happened when we start removing rows. Like it looks like nothing happened, but like we remove one of these explicit rows, and you see that it was smaller, the one that appeared, because another implicit row appeared. So if we remove this one, again, like we have only one explicit row here, and then all the others are these grid auto rows with 0.5. You can actually, like this grid auto rows is also a template, so you can add a new one, and you're going to see that the grid auto rows template is going to repeat. So it starts at the beginning, like let's remove all the template rows. So if we remove all the template rows, you're going to see that we have 3 explicit columns, and then we directly define a grid auto rows template that it say like the first one is going to be 0.5 FR, the next one is going to be 1 FR, and then it repeats if it needs a space. So 0.5 and then 1, and then 0.5, and then if we keep adding, then we are going to have 1 again. So this is a very typical layout where you say like I want 3 columns, and then like just define like the grid auto rows, like just as many areas as you have is going to continue to fill. Like if you have, I don't know, like some photos that you want to fill in 3 columns, and the same you can do, like remove all the columns, like just add a few rows that you want, and let the grid auto columns define how it's going to work. So this is then how like the grid placement works. Again, like we can get here and we can define, for example, like this one in particular is going to be a span 2, or well, that is very big. So here we made this one like double the size, 2 by 2. So the algorithm is not going to have any problem with that. It's going to continue to fill the space. So let's get back to the start, and let's define again like just some basic header, like footer. Maybe we don't need that many columns, and we put here a sidebar and some content. So we can say like the footer is going to be here, this is going to be like around here, and something else that we end up adding is that now you can define like the placement of the areas, like the alignment. Let's say like we go to the header, and you have this justify self. Right now is in initial, the default, and align self initial. This is coming from the parent. Like normally, like if you define initial, it's a stretch, and this is what is happening here. But we can define, for example, that instead of having initial, we are going to say like this is going to be align self as start, and you can see that the area is not covering the full row. It's like only at it is at 50% because we are defining here that the width is initial. We can say like, let's say that this is, I don't know, 75%, for example. So let's get back. And so this is start, and then I modified the width. Okay, let's say that didn't make sense. Okay, here we have. So this area now is at 75% of the space, and we said that with align self we can define that this is going to be at the start, at the center, or at the end of the row. And the same with justify self, we can define that this is going to be at the stretch start, here in the center, or here. So let's say like we define that this is going to be in the center, and this we can also say that is in the center. And also you can control per item, like using justify self. If you see in the header here, we are saying justify self center and align self center, but you can also go directly to the container. There is a grid placement property, and here you have justify items and align items, and you can directly say like everything is going to be center. So, and I don't know, align items, everything is going to be like a start, let's say. So the header is not being modified because it has like their own properties, but the rest of the areas that are having like the default that is initial are going to have the one of the parent. So in this case, like everything is going to be center and up. So like instead of a star, we can put center, we can get to the footer and say like, instead of these, we are going to place it to the bottom. And you can control and see how things work in this regard. There is one more property that actually only appears. So let's check if we can. So if you go to grid placement, there is justify content initial and align content. And these only appear if you have the rows. For example, like instead of FR, let's put pixels, 300 pixels and 300 pixels. And here you can see that we have the container that occupied all the space. And we defined two columns that the two of them are 300 pixels. So this doesn't have enough space to fill everything. So you have like justify content for this, that you can say like, instead of being the default, you can say like center, and this is going to center the two columns in the center, or like you can say like end. And there is other properties, because like you can say like, I want a space between them, and I want like space evenly. Okay, around. We have a bug there to fix. That's good that we did this talk so we can fix it. But this is what is going to happen, is that if you say a space between, like the check columns are going to go to the side, and there will be like the space in the middle. So let's get back to center here. And the same for like align content, if you have like not enough space here in the rows. So let's get back to it. And I think like that's it. That's mostly all the new features that we have. Of course, like we didn't mention, but you have like the copy buttons, so you can directly get the CSS or HTML without going to create code sandbox or the other ones. And as usual, like this is done by Lenny Labs, and if you want, you can hire our front-end team for doing this kind of like fancy interfaces. If you still are missing V1, you can like the old version is there, like in case like you are very used to this one, but we hope that you like the new version. So thanks a lot.